I lived in Da Nang for almost a year and now I'm living in Hanoi. In this video, I want to share my experience after living in both cities. I'll talk about practical things like housing, access to healthcare, and even the visa situation. So let me start with one of the biggest downsides of Da Nang for me, housing. Finding a good place to live in Da Nang was much more complicated than I expected. At the time, I wanted to stay close to the beach, so I was mostly looking around An Thuong, an area known for having a more international vibe. I visited several places with different price ranges, and some of them were in a bad shape, with broken furniture and large patches of mold visible on the walls. Eventually, I found a studio around 9.5 million Vietnamese dong, $360. And that felt fair for the price. It was clean and my landlady was great, so no complaints there. But when the rainy season hit and things got worse in the apartment with the obvious humidity in the walls, in the building itself, a damp smell in the air, by the end of the day, I had this persistent cough that disappeared the moment I left Da Nang, which made me think there was probably more mold inside the walls even if I couldn't see it. My experience in Hanoi was the opposite. During my first week, I stayed in Ba Dinh district and the apartment already felt more comfortable. It was a pleasant surprise. Then when I started looking for a long-term apartment, the process was very simple. I found a real estate agent, he showed me 2 apartments and I decided to stay in one of them. The apartment I have now in Hanoi is much better than the one I had in Da Nang. I pay around 10 million Vietnamese dong for a 1-bedroom apartment, and the quality is much higher. I arrived when the temperatures were still a bit low, and the apartment stayed at a comfortable temperature inside. The insulation is good, which is something that I appreciate. So, in terms of housing, Hanoi surprised me both in the options available and in the overall quality. But even though my housing experience in Hanoi has been better, there is one problem that exists in both cities: outside noise. Vietnam is a loud country and there is construction everywhere. New apartment buildings are going up, older buildings are being demolished, and that often means frequent and intense noise. In Da Nang, next to my place, I had noise from nearby bars playing loud music, construction around the area, and even neighbors cutting metal at 7 in the morning. So even though the apartment itself was okay, I always felt like it was more a place to sleep than a place where I felt comfortable spending the whole day. In Hanoi, I live in a more residential area around Westlake, and my apartment has better sound insulation. But there are no miracles. Recently, construction started right next to my building and it became a problem. It is the kind of noise that makes me very difficult to concentrate, like drilling and heavy sounds during the day. And because I work from home, this is a big problem. And this is where the FitNexus Omnipods 3 came into my life at the perfect time. FitNexus sent them to me so I could try them and share my honest opinion. And the timing was perfect because noise had been a big issue for me. Before this, I was using normal earplugs, but they were never very comfortable. After a while, they started hurting my ears, and they didn't block the noise as much as I needed. With the Somnipods, the first thing that I noticed was the comfort. They fit my ears really well, and I barely feel them, which is important because if something is uncomfortable, I simply won't use it. I've been using them during the day when I need to focus, especially with construction noise. They don't erase everything, but they do reduce that feeling of being completely invaded by noise. I also use them for meditation at night and to sleep. The sleep sounds in the app are really comforting, and because I sleep on my side, I was surprised that I don't feel them in my ears. So far, I'm pleasantly surprised. If you are interested in Somnipods 3, you can check their website fitnexa.com. I also have a link in this video's description. Moving to a more practical point, the visa situation. So the visa that I have is valid for 90 days. So every 90 days I need to leave Vietnam and apply again. In that sense, Da Nang and Hanoi are similar because you have options. You can fly out of Vietnam, spend some time in another country, apply for a new 90-day visa, and return once it is approved. Or you can do a border run by land. From Da Nang, there are visa services that take people by bus to the Laos border. From Hanoi, because of the location, there are services to the China border, but also to Laos border. Some people do it through the Cambodia border, but I have no idea if that is a viable option or how safe it is. A few months ago, I did the China border run and it went really well. My Portuguese passport got a lot of attention there, but that is definitely a story for another video. So for me, visa-wise, I wouldn't say one city is much better than the other. Both give you options. It depends on whether you prefer to fly out for a few days or to do the border run by land. Another important point that works pretty well in both cities is the access to healthcare. Both cities have private clinics, hospitals, and plenty of pharmacies. So I never felt lost when I needed medical help. The difference was how I found the right places. So in Da Nang, expat Facebook groups were very useful. People shared experiences and names of clinics or doctors. And there's also a women's group, which is fantastic. I found the places where I later went for a dermatologist, my annual gynecologist checkup, and the dentist. I went to private clinics in Da Nang, but there are also hospitals like Vinmec and Family Hospital, which are often mentioned by foreigners living there. In Hanoi, it was different. I didn't have a support network yet, and I got sick not long after arriving. I also didn't find Facebook groups as helpful, so I relied more on Google Maps and checked the reviews carefully. And because I was having respiratory issues, I chose to go to a hospital instead of a private clinic. Later, I also went to an ophthalmologist because of an eye problem. Overall, everything went well in both cities. Maybe Da Nang is a little more affordable in some cases, but I think it depends a lot on where you go. Hanoi has many options too, from more local hospitals to places more used to foreigners. And those would be more expensive. From my experience, there is usually someone who can help with the translation or at least make the process manageable. For me, this is important because knowing that I can access healthcare easily takes away a lot of stress. Another thing that affects my daily life is access to basic services, especially supermarkets, local shops, and places where I can buy what I need for the week. In Vietnam, you can use Grab for everything, and it's usually affordable, but I like having some independence. I don't like feeling isolated or feeling like I need a car or a motorbike every time I want to buy groceries. I cook at home every day, so this is something important to me. In Hanoi, I have a supermarket within walking distance. I can do my regular shopping without having to travel 5 or more kilometers, like I often had to do in Da Nang. It saves me time. I don't have to plan my whole day around grocery shopping. In Da Nang, especially around An Thuong, where I lived, there were many convenience stores and small markets like Moon Milk, Winmart, or Green Mark. They were useful for small things, but for bigger grocery shopping, I often had to go to places like Lotte Mart or Mega Market, which were on the other side of the bridge, and that meant taking a car or riding a motorbike. If you rent a motorbike, this may not be a big issue, but driving in Vietnam is not part of my plan, especially after seeing so many people with bandages from motorbike accidents in Da Nang. So for me, having supermarkets and basic services within walking distance makes it easier to cook during the week and then enjoy going out for lunch or dinner on the weekends. Speaking of daily life, food and coffee culture are a big part of living in Vietnam. I don't feel a big difference between Da Nang and Hanoi in that sense. In both cities, you can find local restaurants very affordable. Western food is more expensive, but I don't find the prices completely unreasonable. And when it comes to coffee, and I'm speaking from a limited experience because I'm sensitive to caffeine, but I felt the coffee in Da Nang was more aromatic. That is just my personal impression. I had my favorite coffee places there, and I even made an ebook with my recommendations for each one, so you can check it in my bio. Hanoi, on the other hand, has a nice tea culture, which is great for me. And over time, I also started finding my favorite places around the city. Who knows, maybe I'll make a Hanoi selection and create an ebook for that too. Let me know in the comments if that would be useful for you. And finally, there's the beach, which is a big plus for Da Nang. Living near the beach is a luxury. The air feels cleaner and less polluted because you have that freshness from the sea, with many sunny days and clear skies. I used to walk by the beach every day in the morning. It was almost empty. By the end of the day, it was full of local families and people just enjoying life outside. Although I feel the city is changing fast. When I lived there, it was already popular, but it didn't feel as crowded as it seems to feel now. So when I talk about Da Nang, I'm talking about the Da Nang I experienced at the time. Hanoi is very different. There is no beach here. There are lakes and some are beautiful, but for me, it's not the same. The air is more polluted, especially from December to March, which was exactly when I arrived. The gray skies and haze affected my first impression of the city. May has been better with more blue sky days and acceptable air quality, but that is not the usual feeling I had when I first arrived. I did find nice places in Hanoi for my morning walks, but nothing compares to the energy of the sea. So, in that sense, for me, Da Nang is far ahead of Hanoi. In both cities, I always felt safe, even though Hanoi is much more chaotic and more populated. People spend a lot of time outside. There are neighborhood cafes open, food places, so the streets hardly ever feel abandoned or empty. So if you're watching this because you are trying to choose between Da Nang and Hanoi, I think the answer depends a lot on what kind of daily life you want. If being close to the beach matters to you, Da Nang has a lot to offer. For me, that part of Da Nang is what I miss the most. But if you care more about practical comfort, like a better apartment for the price and the convenience of a bigger city, Hanoi may surprise you. For me, Da Nang was better for lifestyle. Hanoi was better for daily logistics. But it is a challenge living here. I'm not going to lie. What I'm looking for is a balance between the two, a place with the comfort I found in Hanoi, but also some of the access to nature that I had in Da Nang. Above all, a place with better air quality, which can be difficult to find in many big cities in Southeast Asia. So thank you to everyone who stayed until the end. If you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, or share it with someone who might find it helpful. Thank you for listening. I'll see you soon.